All right, what's on the docket for today?
Well, sir, steady progress is being made on the live-action One Piece adaptation, and we're certain we'll be able to make a 2023 release date.
What did you just say to me?
The live-action One Piece is...
I thought I told you guys that we aren't doing that. Who's the idiot who even greenlit this?
Jerry, sir. I'm pretty sure that was Jerry.
What the heck, Michael? You just gonna sell me out like that?
Jerry, what are you even doing here? I thought I fired you last Wednesday.
Oh, that memo was for me? I thought you might have been talking about another Jerry.
You're the only Jerry that works here. How did you even get a hold of the company bank information?
Well, I mean, you just kind of left the card out on your desk, boss.
I'm gonna kill you, Jerry!
Whoa, boss, what's the big deal? I mean, it's not like we can't afford it.
Money isn't the issue, Jerry. Do you realize how long One Piece is? It's going to take us forever to shoot it, and the actors are gonna start getting old before we can even finish it, and then we're gonna have to start cutting and rearranging the story just to fit it all in, and then the fans are gonna start getting pissed off at us!
Boss, take it easy. It's not that big of a deal, is it?
No, just shut up, Jerry. I have to think here.
Okay, let's see. We can do that. Maybe that should work. Maybe. I'm not sure.
I mean, it's not like people enjoy our live-action anime anyway. Yeah, people will just hate it no matter what. I'm sure it won't go past a single season. Yeah, I don't think we have to worry about that.
I don't know about that, boss. One Piece is pretty popular.
Oh, just be quiet, Jerry. You've never been right about anything in your entire life.
I told you, boss.
I'm going to kill you, Jerry.
Season 2 of Netflix's live-action One Piece show is releasing next year. And needless to say, people are extremely excited. However, there's also been a discussion brewing around this show. Most notably, how are they even going to do all of this?
Like, One Piece is really long and has a lot of stuff in it. It's gonna take them forever to even make it, and like the actors could only be young for so long. They're all gonna be old by the time we're nearing the end, and how are they gonna fit everything from the manga into the show? And
You know what? Maybe we should just take this one thing at a time. Once season 2 is finally released next year, it will have taken a total of 3 years to complete production. And when you have a fan base that is incredibly excited to see what you're working on, 3 years can be a pretty long time. So why exactly does it take so long? Well, one thing we have to keep in mind is that despite the fact that scripts for season 2 were basically complete by the time season 1 aired, the crew actually couldn't shoot due to the 2023 SAG-AFTRA strike happening at the time. Considering the fact that the strikes lasted until November of that year, this potentially pushed production back by a few months. That said though, it is just a few months. Regardless of whether the strikes happen or not, this show would still probably be coming out in 2026 regardless. And that is for the simple fact that making a show like this is really fucking hard. One Piece is a show that is on par with a big budget Hollywood film in terms of its scope and production. The first season alone costed somewhere in the ballpark of $140 million to make, and you know that they're probably increasing that budget a good amount for season 2, considering everything that needs to be adapted. The Grand Line is where things start to become, well, grand, and as such, it stands to reason that the things we see there are going to be much more difficult to implement. There's a giant whale, giant people, dinosaurs. There's dinosaurs, people, okay? In a world where movies and TV shows can now be shot almost entirely in a studio, One Piece stands out for its extensive use of real-life location shooting in places like South Africa, Mexico, and Spain, mixed with insane practical sets. In fact, a lot of what you see of the ships in the show were actually built in real life.
In One Piece, we have a lot of really big vessels. They're real, we built them, and I think that leads credibility to the world.
One of the most important things for the showrunners is not just presenting the world of One Piece, but trying to present it in a grounded, authentic fashion. Which, grounded is not really a word I thought I'd ever associate with One Piece, but, here we are. Considering just how wacky things can get in the Grand Line, it makes sense that building these locations is an incredibly lengthy process. And when you also take into account the fact that this is not a movie, but an entire 7-hour show, yeah, production lasting a long time is only natural. They're basically shooting 3 movies all at once, which is crazy. But this is also normal for shows like this, especially on this scale. However, One Piece is anything but a normal story, in part because of its legendary length. At this point in time, One Piece has accumulated over 1,000 chapters and is insanely dense with story arcs, lore, characters. Like, at this point, I'm fairly certain it gives the Bible a run for its money in that regard. Marty Adelstein, one of the producers for the show, has actually stated that he would like to do 12 seasons, which his fellow producer Becky Clements would elaborate on.
We're over 1,080 chapters at this point in the manga. We have plans with Matt Owens for how we would break multiple seasons, and I think even if we did 6 seasons, we would probably only use up half of the chapters of the manga. It really could go on and on.
Let's go ahead and break this down. For the purpose of this discussion, let's say that yes, in fact, if they want to cover everything up to Egghead, it'll take 12 seasons. Let's also say that 3 years is the time that it takes to make a single season of this show, ignoring any external factors that can lead to a delay in schedule. If they were to make 12 seasons of this show at the pace they're going, that means it would have taken them 36 years just to get to Egghead. And that's not even the end. There's still Elbaf and whatever other arcs are going to be covered in the future. That would mean the show would be running for probably over 40 years minimum. And if we're being realistic here, knowing how long Oda likes to make his arcs sometimes, the maximum is probably over 50 years. Do you guys see now why this is kind of an issue for this show specifically? I mean, Luffy's actor Nyaki Godoy was cast in the role when he was 18. If we take our math into account, by the time the show is in its final saga, he'll be in his 60s.
Oh, you guys, we finally found the One Piece. I'm finally king of the
Of course, Netflix is probably more than happy to have a show go on for this long. After all, at this point, it is a massive moneymaker, and the longer it plays out, the more they're going to make profit from it. But honestly, the actors' ages, I feel, are a huge elephant in the room. I mean, not even just Luffy, but the other Straw Hats are in their late 20s and early 30s. If the show really does run for that long, their age is going to begin to show. So what could Netflix possibly do to mitigate this? Well, for one, they could just change the in-universe duration of the story's timeline. In the manga, from the moment Luffy comes out of that barrel to the current events happening in Elbaf, at least 2 years have passed. Just 2 years. How? Anyway, there is the option to say that the live action version of the show takes place over a longer period of time. Though, honestly, this would probably piss off a lot of people. Like, fans want to see how Luffy is in the manga, not, you know, old man Luffy. So what else can they do here? Well, there is also the option to recast your characters. But this also presents the problem of fans forming an attachment to these specific actors. Like, is Luffy finding the One Piece going to really hit the same if it's not the original actor? It would just feel so weird. So this is why I think what Netflix is most likely to do is what every other big entertainment conglomerate is doing, i.e. CGI de-aging. The same technology used by Disney to recreate the younger versions of characters like Luke Skywalker and Indiana Jones. This is by far the most expensive path you could take, but at this point Netflix has the income of a small island nation, so I don't really think the money is that much of an issue for them. With all that said though, don't you guys think that that would be a little weird? Having a 50-year-old guy coming on set and acting like he's supposed to be 19 years old or something, screaming about how he wants to be the king of the pirates, and they just change it all in post. I'm sure that eventually people will start feeling weirded out by the fact that the character they're seeing on screen is barely even real. While I do think that later on they'd probably be using using CGI sparingly in addition to makeup to help age the actors down a bit in later years, I don't think they're going to be that extreme with it. Rather, I think the most realistic option is to simply expedite the process in which the show gets made. You know, use the actors as much as they can while they're still young. And one way you can do this is by shooting multiple seasons at once. Often when you're making a movie, you just shoot it, edit it, then release it, and then afterwards you start planning the sequel. Typically, you don't know how much profit a single project is going to make before it releases, so it makes sense to wait and see the results before you start planning any follow-ups. However, there are circumstances where a studio can feel so confident in the amount of money it's going to make from a project it's working on that it's more cost and time effective to just shoot multiple productions within that series at once. This is what happened with Pirates of the Caribbean as well as the Avengers, and I could see this happening for One Piece as well. However, when I say expediting the process, I don't just mean the production. I'm also talking about the story itself. One Piece arcs have a knack for going on and on. I mean, Wano itself is over 190 episodes. That single arc is longer than like most anime. I think realistically, we're going to see major cuts happening here, whether they condense arcs down to a more manageable length or even cut certain storylines altogether. Like, would anyone really miss Long Ring Long? You know, besides Inaki.
Long Ring Long Len, I think that arc is underrated. I think it's actually really fun and really cool.
I think in addition to those two things, they might also merge certain story arcs together. Like, for example, instead of Punk Hazard and Dressrosa being two separate arcs, they might just take elements of Punk Hazard and incorporate them into Dressrosa. Like, maybe Caesar Clown and the lab from Punk Hazard are on Dressrosa instead, or something like that. And to be perfectly honest with you guys, that still doesn't sound great to me. Now, granted, they've already done stuff like this in the first season, but the later arcs of One Piece become so dense and packed with important story elements that I'm afraid that adjustments like this are just going to be alienating to the fans. And this is why this is such a huge elephant in the room for this show, because no matter what solution is given, nothing seems all that ideal. And this is where my issues with the concept of a live action One Piece begin to arise. This series was made for manga and anime, whether it be the wacky, absurd character designs and powers that just do not shine as much in live action, or the crippling limitations that are presented when trying to shoot a story of this length with live actors. I feel that this series just does not lend itself well to live action. Like, the compromises will just begin to pile and pile up, and honestly, I don't know how they're going to carry on without majorly disappointing people. With all that said though, I want to know what you guys think. How do you think the future of live action One Piece is going to go? Let me know in the comments below. As always guys, thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you around.